every day, we have people waiting on ambulances, and that's got to change. And so for me, I'm talking with our representatives down under the state capitol. They're about to go back into session and trying to get them to carry some bills that'll help us, because it's not just us, it's the whole state is kind of in this together.
Welcome to the Southside Show, your local news and information source for Atlanta's Southside.
Welcome to the Southside Show. I'm your host, R.D. Jones III. The Southside Show will introduce you to the talented individuals, visionary leaders, innovative entrepreneurs, and game changers that make a Southside strong. Today's guest is Chad Jones, Fire Chief for the City of South Fulton. He began his career in public safety in 1990 when he became a state-certified emergency medical technician. He joined the Atlanta Fire Department in 1995, where he rose through the ranks to Deputy Chief prior to his retirement in 2020. After retirement, he was selected for the Fire Chief job of the City of South Fulton in 2021. Chad has a life goal to give back to the community and profession that he loves so much, and to leave it better for future generations. Fire Chief Jones, welcome to the Southside Show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me today.
All right. I've had the opportunity to work with you for the last 7 months now. It's been a great experience. You are a guy of high professionalism. I love what you do. You're so very knowledgeable of public safety. As we get into this interview or this conversation, could you tell the Southside Show guest a little bit about your background? Where were you raised? Do you have any siblings? A little bit about your family.
All right. Well, my childhood was probably not normal.
Okay.
Unfortunately, my mom was sick off and on, and we lost her last year.
Sorry to hear that.
Yes, we were too. But she was a fighter, and I think she instilled that in me. Always give back to the community, always be grateful for what you get, and always give praise to the man upstairs. So it's kind of the way I lived my life and raised my family. So, but I'm a Georgian. I was born and raised just outside of Atlanta. I was born in Atlanta, Old Georgia Baptist Hospital. And my parents, after Vietnam, had gotten married and moved into Smyrna. And so family is from anywhere from Smyrna to Moultrie to Albany, Macon. So kind of bounced around when my mom was sick, relatives and things. But did most of my growing up in Smyrna. So Dad worked for the phone company in and around Atlanta, 14th Street, and grew up, rooting on the Braves and the Falcons and the Hawks, and wishing we had a winning season back then. So, born and raised here. I have one older brother. He's in pharmaceuticals, kind of fell into that. Didn't have a pathway really to college. So my best friend, his dad was a firefighter. And that kind of inspired me. And he told me right after high school, become an EMT. And that's what I did right out of high school, went to work, progressed up from an EMT to a paramedic, and got a chance with Atlanta Fire Department in 1995. Again, been blessed throughout my career, had some great opportunities. As I went through, got my bachelor's degree from the University of Florida, been able to get my master's degree.
We won't hold that against you.
But my master's through Columbus State University. So I'm the first in my family to have a degree, and I continue to pursue. I'm at Columbia Southern right now pursuing a doctorate of business administration. So lifelong learner, been to Harvard through their executive leadership program. Was lucky enough to be selected for Leadership Atlanta in 2018. And so really at this point in my career was to become a fire chief. But one of my main goals is a love and passion of people and being a public servant, and really wanting to move our profession to the next level. And when this opportunity came up and I applied, spoke with the city manager, Tammy Jones, all the pieces fell together. And again, our path is defined by the man upstairs. So I think he has a hand in it. And here was a department that was young, 3 years old. I was the 5th fire chief they brought in. Had a lot of turnover. So the first promise I made to him is I'm not going anywhere. I was born and raised here. I'm not moving. And I want to develop this department, build it from the foundation up, make it a Class 1 fire department, accredited, and we're on our way. Been here 20 months. As far as family life, met the love of my life. I always say that God put her in my life to keep me straight, but spent the last 27 years with my wife. We live down in Fayetteville. Raised 2 daughters. They're 23 and 20. I got one that goes to LaGrange College, music and theater, and the other is a teacher now in Fayette County, special needs. She's a special ed teacher for those K through 2nd grade. So I think I kind of rubbed off on her on giving back and helping those much in need. So, but again, love the outdoors. If I'm not here, I'm usually outdoors somewhere doing something. Again, grew up on kind of a mini farm, and like I explained to you, I got animals, love animals, horses, goats, chickens, everything like that. So for those out there, they're paying $7, $8 for a dozen eggs. I have chickens, and it doesn't cost me anything for eggs. I get them every morning. So having your own way of, providing for yourself and your family, that's kind of my zen, just being able to do things and reap the harvest and things. So I enjoy doing that. So.
Okay, a little bit about your department. How many guys do you supervise in your department?
So we're growing. When I came on, our what they call a head count, our staffing total was 186.
Wow.
We have gone up to 192, and what I had to do the first year was really evaluate the department and where it's at.
Okay.
The message, and I've told the citizens, they're going to be seeing change, and we're coming up with a plan and a pathway forward for that, because obviously we're 90 square miles and we have 9 stations. That's not enough. You typically want a station about every 5 miles for response times. And I've told the city manager and council and mayor, don't worry, I'm not going to come and ask for 20, but we need to be in the ballpark of 13 or 14. You have 2 districts currently without a fire station, District 2 and District 6. We have purchased land, 51 acres in District 2. We are in the process of finalizing another 7 acres in District 7 on Oakley. So strategically, we're looking at that. When I came in, one of the things the past mayor, Bill Edwards, said was diversity. We had 1% female. We're now up to about 12%. Really striving to diversify our organization, bring in training, bring in equipment. The equipment, when I got here, a lot of it was dilapidated. That was a main goal of me last year, is to have safe and efficient and effective equipment. Right. Throughout the year, we were able to purchase 3 new engines, a new ladder. We have brought in a health and safety officer. We're pushing for mental health because cancer and suicides are the 2 top leading causes of death right now in firefighters. So we're tackling those in our city. Wow. So we're bringing in, like I said, a consultant for mental health, and we have changed the way we're doing business and improving you can't prevent cancer, but you can do things with health and safety and gear and equipment to reduce the chances of you getting it. So we've implemented those programs and processes. And again, like I said, with the equipment, every station now has an apparatus that meets our National Fire Protection NFPA standards. Okay. So that was the first step. Stations are the second. And again, training facility. The city is new, so we're outgrowing what we're renting. And so as we grow the 51 acres, we're hoping to develop into a complex with a headquarters, an emergency operations center, a training center, a fire station, logistics and maintenance, okay. Because those are things that we just don't have. One of the things supervising and staffing the 192, we have state and national training requirements. And just last month, we were having to take our personnel and equipment to Clayton County to use their facility because we don't have a facility. So those are things that are big strategic goals. Right. We're not just looking in the next year, we're developing a 5 and a 20-year plan. We're working with you in economic development. We're working with community development and making sure that as we grow as a city that we're prepared to service the needs. Mm-hmm.
So how did you guys work towards having, I guess, 12% women diversity at the fire department versus the 1%? And also, what are you doing to be able to address filling future positions as you continue to grow your department?
So I'm glad you asked. I'm very proud of my leadership team. One of the first things, and I probably rocked the boat a little bit, but going back to some of the leaders I know and some of my studies, sometimes, if you don't have the right people in the right seats, you got to rearrange. So I brought in a diverse group at the top. So a female fire chief that came out of South Carolina came over, Chief Hilda Moses, a lot of military background. She's been a fire chief, and she is running my support services. Cool. The other deputy chief is Duron Pat Wilson. He's been around. He's also a former fire chief. He is running my operations and training. So I brought in people that knew a lot, that's been there before, to not only help me grow, but help this department grow. And so I diversified the top at first, and then as we worked down, but programs that we've implemented, and one that we're really proud of that got implemented last year was specifically for high school age women. So we partner because we're small with police, and Decatur Fire Chief, who is a female, sent help, and also Coweta County had a couple of female firefighters. So the program wasn't necessarily for firefighters, but what it was to inspire and encourage young women to seek out their goals, to do whatever they want to do, and don't let anybody tell them. And so we had 9 fabulous young women from around high schools. I think there was 4 high schools that were actually recognized in the program. And the whole program last year was 3 days. It was all the instructions, everybody that dealt with these young women were women. And they were able to speak real time. What some of theirs, we brought in Chief Rosemary Cloud, who's retired, was one of the first African-American chiefs in the nation over in East Point. And she came in and spoke to the women on her journey. So to give them encouragement, to inspire them, to tell them, and out of that, we actually had 2 young ladies apply to our department.
Great.
So when they graduated. The other thing we're working on is a program, CTAE, which is a national program that the state of Georgia has. Most people know it as dual enrollment.
Okay.
There's other departments that are already doing it, Clayton County. So we're not reinventing the wheel, we're using, but we're working with the Fulton County Board of Education. We're hoping that by this fall to have the program in the high schools. And so any of the high school juniors or seniors, male or female, can apply to go into the dual enrollment. And basically, they get college level classes for free. And what we'll do is we'll put them on a journey to become a firefighter. Now, when they graduate, they'll have the college credits. If they so desire to become a firefighter, we can hire them right out of high school at 18.
Wow.
They would already have about 70% of their training. A firefighter from street to the station takes about 12 months. So if I can take 7 or 8 months out of that, because I've already taught them, we already know these individuals. We can mentor them, we can coach them as juniors and seniors.
They're already vested.
They're already vested. And the other thing is you talk about retention. Well, in retention, if your parents, your grandparents, you come from here, you probably get a job here, you're gonna stay here. So they're not gonna be looking elsewhere. Last year, with our union and everything, we negotiated a contract. We are one of the highest paid departments. So a high schooler coming out, 18 years old, will go into our academy at $47,000.
Wow.
We will train them.
High school.
Yep. We will train them to everything they need and pay them. And then once we swear them in as a firefighter and they go to the station, we'll give them $50,000. That's $50,000 with benefits, 401, 457 plan. And then on top of that, we'll continue their education. The city offers tuition reimbursement. So if they want to further their career, and finish their associates, their bachelors, and so forth, they can throughout their career and have tuition reimbursement.
That is awesome, Chief. That is awesome.
So,
I know that some students graduating from college now with 4-year degrees, and they're not coming out making $50,000.
No, and they got $200,000 or whatever in debt.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's a way, it's a big push with the technical colleges right now. I talked to Dr. Seals over at Atlanta Technical College, and again, enrollment really pushing, especially in the state of Georgia. we're having serious problems hiring even nationwide, and what a lot of them call blue collar, for firefighters, police, but EMTs, paramedic, mechanics. And so those are trade that we're kind of losing a little bit. But if we can get them on this path again, within 3 or 4 months out of high school, making $50,000 with benefits and a department that's going to back you for the next 30 years, pay raises, promotions, give you all the training you need, and help you with your college career if you so desire to have a degree.
Yeah, and almost do it debt-free.
Yep.
To a certain degree. Well, that is awesome. Let's switch topics a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about healthcare on the South Side and some of the struggles, that you have been going through as far as being a fire chief and providing emergency services to residents. You're well aware, and we both participated in meetings dealing with, the recent closure of WellStar, a Trauma One center. And then, of course, WellStar closed in East Point, and now we find ourselves with virtually no health care south of I-20. But then we do have some health care in Clayton County. What is the City of South Fulton Fire Department doing to try to address some of these voids right now? I know that's kind of a loaded question, and there's a lot going on, but what are you guys looking to do to try to address, our short-term needs for health care and getting those emergency services to people, because you're having to transport a lot further?
So several avenues and a lot of questions in that one question. So we've had discussion before, but for the viewers to know, I'm also, a couple years ago, was elected to the Georgia Fire Chiefs Association, the board. So moving up through that progression, currently the second vice president. This year, actually, I'll move up to the first, but part of my job for all the departments in Georgia is legislation, kind of keeping an ear to the ground, what's going through, being that board member that representatives and senators and things reach out to me and say, what do you think of the fire service? So it's been a great learning experience in building partnerships. So one of the biggest things with healthcare that we're seeing across the state is some of the antiquated laws we have on the books that deal specifically with emergency medical services and hospitals. Again, like you said, we were in the same meeting. I brought it up that down at the state capitol, one of the things that meeting with senators and things is we don't have a hospital south of I-20. Years ago they closed, Southwest. Then they closed, and it changed names several, but AMC South is what it was finally called or whatever. So you have the second largest city in Fulton County that doesn't have a hospital. And you have 7 other cities, if you want to include half of Atlanta, that doesn't have access to a hospital within their own county. So one of the things we're doing is we're trying to address some of that at legislation and trying to get it changed to help us because some of the laws actually prohibit municipalities from kind of getting into the EMS business. We don't want to take it away, and we don't necessarily want it, but our citizens need it. Right. So we have extended response times currently for all of South Fulton. All 8 cities basically has Grady as a provider. It goes through the county. The county actually has, the agreement with Grady. And so there's no stipulation or anything for us as a municipality. How do we hold them accountable? How do we assist them? So looking at that, because it's just not our city, it's all the cities around us. And like you talked about, wherever basically the ambulance comes, and if they're trying to go to the closest, it could be in Clayton, it could be in Fayette, it could be in Noonan, it could be in Douglas, it could be in Cobb. We lost a level 1 trauma center, which includes the ICU and neuro and everything like that. So when Grady gets, backed up, or if we have a large trauma, you may end up having people go as far as Columbus, Macon, Augusta.
Wow.
Those are our backups. So the thing I brought up in our meeting you talked about is, how many people in the Southside actually depend on public transportation? How many people do not have vehicles? Well, part of the healing process is your loved ones being able to get there. We don't have transportation to Douglas or Cobb or Fayette or Noonan, So if they don't go to a downtown, hospital, a lot of their families can't really get to them sometimes, So some of the things we're trying to address right now, we're looking at some of the programs that are nationwide, mobile integrated health care, where we might be able to partner with someone to bring healthcare closer. The other is changing laws to where we might be able to use. Right now, an ambulance in the state of Georgia can only take someone to an ER, emergency room. That's by law. But if we can get it changed or supplemented to where they could go to urgent care or critical care or a mental health institute, we're not taking someone to an emergency room and clogging up the system where they could have been treated a block from their house simply and went back home. So we need to expand our services and be able to work, and that's what we're doing right now. We're trying to bring solutions to the tables that'll work for not only us, but other cities, other municipalities, because again, healthcare, the cost of healthcare is a whole nother discussion, but what we're doing specifically are those, and we're also looking at rescues. So not that we will be transporting, but again, our number of calls are increasing. Every year, number of calls have been going up, and we're working with the Department of Health. I think education is big. There's a lot of times people just don't know. They've grown up and all they did was dial 911. So bringing forth education to people to when an urgent care, when they can go, what emergency rooms are really there for. So if you read, Wellstar said that only 7% of their patients that went to the emergency room in East Point actually got admitted. Well, that was their numbers, and that was one of the reasons that they closed, was trying to justify, we didn't send a lot of people. Well, every day, we have people waiting on ambulances, and that's got to change. And so for me, I'm talking with our representatives down under the state capitol. They're about to go back into session and trying to get them to carry some bills that'll help us, because it's not just us, it's the whole state is kind of in this together.
Okay. Well, I know the city of South Fulton, I believe, was approximately like 94 square miles with the addition of the Fulton Industrial Boulevard area. Huge area, huge city, and brand new city, 5 years old, and has, it continues to build. Yet at the same time, the infrastructure that's in place is barely enough, to provide for our needs. I know that you guys, through the fire department, I can remember being at one of the council meetings, and they approved the purchase of some more apparatus for your department and everything so that you could provide services. But what are you doing, I guess, in addition to that, to be able to kind of address the needs for this huge city? Because some of these areas have low water pressure, some have no water. It's amazing how diverse the city of South Fulton is, in which you have a very rural area here with farms. You got an area here that's more a suburb. You got an area over here that's more industrial, and over here is more residential. It's just kind of, it's a hodgepodge of many different, areas.
So that was one of the first things I did was a very quick risk assessment of the area. Obviously, we were, as a fire department, and still are, running Fulton Industrial, like you said, one of the largest industrial parks in the Southeast, one of the largest area holding hazardous materials. We also have Charlie Brown, Airport that we're contract to respond to in that area of unincorporated Fulton County. So again, looking at our immediate needs and our apparatus, like you said, we fell well short when I first came here on dependable, efficient, effective equipment. We have really sped up the process on getting equipment. So again, not only did we get into 3 engines and 1 ladder, we also were able to refurbish our old tender, which carries water. It carries 1,800 gallons of water. We refurbished our air and light unit, which is very critical for us to get needed supplies to and from when we have structure fires and things like that. We've upgraded a lot of our smaller vehicles too, so incrementally. And like I said, the 5 and 20-year plan, we do have a plan that most of the council is aware of. We should be bringing it to council. I just can't let it out right now, but it's strategic on how we do the growth. So again, it goes back to what you were saying is, we need to be an all-hazard fire department, and we really weren't when I first got here. We have plans to get there. We're hiring personnel. We have a recruit class right now. We have another class that's going to start in a month. So we shouldn't have many to none I don't think I said that right. Many to none vacancies after this next class. But again, each year strategically, we're going to have to increase our head count. Right. We're going to have to get more. Opening a fire station the way I want to is going to take about 30 personnel. So every time we increase a fire station apparatus, we got to increase the number of personnel and training. So we want to do it strategically so we don't overwhelm, the system.
Right.
But like you said, when you go down into District 4, you have areas that doesn't have municipal water. People are rural, they get their water from wells, they're on septic. So it's a different, risk for us. That's why at Station 8, the engine we bought, a typical engine carries 500 gallons of water. This one that we bought carries 1,000. So in Station 8, you have a specialized engine with 1,000 gallons and a tender that's carrying 1,800 gallons. So when we respond to a fire, the immediate first-in apparatus is carrying 2,800 gallons of water for us to make that initial fire attack. There's training and there's mutual aid. Chattahoochee Hills, which is right below there, has another tender with 2,000 gallons. And when we have a fire, we already have agreements that they're dispatching. So we're bringing water with us. Now, long-term city, if they ever put municipal water, would be great. But if they don't, we prepared for that. Like you said, with the hazmat and airport, we did a lot of airport training. We partnered with the city of Atlanta out at Hartsfield-Jackson. They have a very good program to train people in aircraft firefighting. We put over 40 people through that class this year, so we're trained. We also brought in hazardous material training from outside. And again, we're training our personnel, and then we're systematically purchasing equipment to go along with that. You brought up a good point that we finally incorporated Fulton Industrial. I don't know if a lot of people knew that we also got 17 miles of the Chattahoochee. That came along with it. So
Yes,
in partnership with the Atlanta Police, we're developing a program. There's 2 search and rescue type training you do. One is for swift water. Obviously we have flooding going on right now. You have moving water, people get stuck in it. They decide to go play in the rivers and they get stuck. So having the ability to have a team to go and rescue the people in swift water, and the other is a dive. So we're in the infancy stages, but we are training, we are purchasing equipment for that risk factor, that now that we have 17 miles of the Chattahoochee, and I've heard different names, but there's hundreds of lakes and ponds and water throughout South Fulton. So having a water rescue team that can go in swift water or into lakes and stuff is going to be valuable. So again, just as PD is improving their services, we are too. And that's what you do as a public safety. You look at what can happen in your city, whether it's, no water, power, tornadoes, ice, and then taking those risks and then putting them up to what you can do. And then basically that's where your gap analysis come in, and you say, okay, we need to be trained on this, we need this equipment because if this happens. So facilities wise, we got to grow. And that's what I was saying, we need 5 or 6. Some of our older facilities are in dire need of just being rebuilt. So that's where our 20-year plan is going to come in, and how we're going to systematically replace stations and increase our stations. And again, the city just became 5 years old. The fire department transitioned almost a year after. So this year, February 28th, I think, is actually the date, our fire department becomes 5 years old within the city. So, and last May was the 5-year anniversary for the city. So, again, and police, I think, is September, October, they get their 5th year. So, that's one of the things we tell people: be patient. You know, we are working steadily. We have great people. You call 911, Big Red, as we say, is going to show up. But again, I talked about the rescues. So as the number of calls come up, we only have so many pieces of equipment to respond. And so even some of our stations, we are looking at ways to add equipment in there to help us until we can get other stations. The simple fact is we have the 9 fire stations, and that's what we have currently. Again, we have 3 areas. We have land, it'll be 2 new stations and a rebuild of 1. But again, that's be going through council and architects and funding and all that good stuff down the road,
Right.
and personnel. But the plan is coming together, and we tell people, you know, just let us know your needs and your, you know, what you want from us, and we'll provide it.
Right. Well, Chief Jones, we thank you for, you know, all the great work that you're doing. Even though you've done so much work, I know that there's a lot ahead. But the thing is that I believe that you're the right man for the job. And
Well,
like I
thank you.
said, it's I enjoy working with you and your leadership style, and you know your positive outlook overall, and just your knowledge. You know, many years of experience. Is there anything that you would like to leave our Southside Show guests with?
No, I just, as we tell everybody, you know, we're on several platforms. And one of the things with the recent storms, I always like to give people some type of safety message. I think, you know, but there is a system, and it's free, and it's called Falcon, and it's through Fulton County, and that is our emergency notification system. So if you don't have it, you can download it to your phone, to your computer, and it alerts you. It not only alerts you to, you know, last night I was getting them for flash floods, for the thunderstorms, but tornado watches and warnings, Amber alerts. So I tell people, you know, make sure you have it, because being prepared and everything, we get the call afterwards, but the more people can be prepared and know what's coming, and just let the fire department know how we can serve you better. Get on one of the platforms. I have a PIO that does, I'm not tech savvy, that's why I hired someone to do the Twitter and the Instagram and the Facebook and all that. But, you know, let us know how we're doing. We want to know, you know, good, bad, indifference. I always I make station around, tell them, let me know what's broke. I can't fix it unless I know what's broke.
Right.
You know, so if someone had good service, we'd like to know. If someone has bad service, we'd like to know. And again, we're here for the citizens. You know, the firefighters, the stations, the equipment, it's all for them. You know, at the end of the day, you know, we're here to serve. And that's just what I'd like them to know.
All right. Well, thank you, Chief
Thank you.
Jones. All right. And that's a wrap, folks. My time is up. I'm Artie Jones, your host of the Southside Show, bringing you the latest and the greatest that the Southside has to offer. And if you don't remember anything else from this episode, please remember this. Don't sleep on the Southside. Thanks for joining us. Take care.